Let's jump right into today's explainer because we have a genuinely fascinating and honestly deeply human story to unpack. You know that whole overnight success myth in tech? Well, behind almost every single one of those is a period of intense, agonizing isolation. Today we're looking at the raw, totally unfiltered reality of building a dream from scratch. We're following a guy named Rohan. Now, Rohan is this incredibly simple-hearted young guy, and his day-to-day life is something I think a lot of dreamers are going to instantly relate to. He is living in this tiny, cramped room, just pouring literally every ounce of his energy into his tech startup, working day and night. He is the quintessential solitary architect of his own ambition. But as we're going to see from the source material, the blueprint for that kind of success, it's usually drawn up in complete and utter isolation.
So let's break down the baseline reality he's dealing with. It's the ultimate standoff, empty pockets versus absolutely massive dreams. Rohan is living right smack in the messy middle of this dichotomy. His ambition is huge, but it's colliding every single day with a very real, very tangible lack of funds. And sure, that stark contrast is the engine driving him forward, but, as we'll explore, it is also creating just an immense amount of personal friction.
And that kind of friction, it never just stays neatly out of sight. Eventually, it spills over. When intense financial instability collides with a romantic relationship, suddenly, all that lofty ambition is forced to answer to cold, hard pragmatism. Let's see exactly how this plays out for him.
Here is where it really hits hard. The source shares the exact, pragmatic reasoning Rohan's girlfriend, Ria, gives for ending their relationship. She tells him point blank, love doesn't fill stomachs. She actually points out that he doesn't even have enough money for his own basic expenses and asks how he could possibly keep her happy. Her conclusion is that she just cannot live with someone who has no future. Now, it is absolutely crucial that we look at this neutrally. We are not villainizing Ria here at all. From her perspective, this is simply about practical survival and stability. She needs a secure foundation, and Rohan's current reality just cannot provide that. Honestly, we've all had to weigh the risks of chasing a dream against the very real need for present-day security. And here, it just results in a totally heartbreaking collision.
So, reeling from that, Rohan desperately seeks a lifeline and turns to his relatives. But instead of the encouragement he's probably hoping for, he runs straight into a brick wall. This time, it's family pragmatism weighing in on what they see as a sinking ship of a business. Just listen to how brutally honest this is. Rohan's own uncle turns him away right at the doorstep, and his words are razor sharp. He says, "We don't have spare money to put into your sinking business. Find a proper job, otherwise you'll end up on the streets." Wow. To his family, the startup isn't this noble dream. It's just a financial black hole. And actually, if you think about it statistically, with over 90% of startups failing, his uncle's perspective is rooted in a very literal, practical fear of Rohan ending up homeless. The source text uses this incredibly powerful phrase, "The world salutes the rising sun." And well, right now, Rohan's sun definitely hasn't risen.
And that sparks this really painful domino effect. First, the heartbreaking loss of his partner, Ria, because he couldn't offer a financially secure future. Then, that incredibly blunt rejection from his family, specifically the uncle refusing to fund a struggling business and demanding he get a real job. And then, the third block falls. His friends just stop picking up the phone entirely. His support network is systematically stripped away, piece by piece.
Which brings us to the stark, ultimate reality of his ambition. Profound, total social isolation. Think back to that small room we talked about at the start. He's in there. But now, he is completely and totally cut off from the outside world.
When you actually tally up the quantifiable cost of his ambition, it is staggering. No romantic partner, zero financial support, or even emotional encouragement from his family. He's being actively ignored by his friends. And perhaps the most telling detail about how society values conventional success, his relatives have completely stopped inviting him to weddings and festivals. He has literally lost all his social currency. It leaves him entirely alone on his path, and it serves as a pretty striking reminder of just how deeply our social standing is tied to our perceived financial stability.
And that brings us to a really profound place to wrap up today's explainer. Looking at Rohan's journey, we really have to ask, is complete isolation the inevitable price of building a dream? Like, when you choose that path of empty pockets and big dreams, do you automatically sign a contract to become a solitary architect? It's a fascinating, deeply complex question about the true cost of ambition. I really want you to let that resonate. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this material today. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I will catch you in the next explainer.